The pandemic, get your money, pandemic, meditate, cultivate, now it's time to...
Folks, it's me, Rolo. Welcome back to Rolo Runs the City. I am your host, Rolo, and I know it's been a long time since I've dropped the podcast, but here we go. Obviously, you know, this year we took a little different turn with our podcast. What I wanted to do was I was actually, started making some new music again, putting it out, putting out things that I definitely felt that was near and dear to me. And I said, well, you know what? Let me explain on the podcast what was the catalyst behind these songs. So that's the route we're actually going. So today we're talking about the Plandemic. Okay. This song that, I actually wrote back in 2020, but I fine-tuned it sometime last year, just basically trying to put my pieces together. The reason why I made this song was because I remember telling my wife, I said, hey, I said, this pandemic's going to be done probably by the end of 2022. She said, well, why you say that? I said, it's not going to last too long because things eventually have to get back to normal. Whether if this thing is actually here and it's actually taking people out or not, we're going to have to move forward with life. It is what it is, right? So sure enough, that's exactly what happened. At the end of 2022, people kind of just kind of started, pushing it to the wayside. I totally get why they did it. And I'm actually glad that they did it. They were able to move forward with their lives. You still have some people still wearing the mask and all this other stuff. Wouldn't recommend wearing an N95 mask for too long. They said that that's actually more hazardous to your health than being exposed to other people's breathing, So who knows about that? But anyway, the reason why I wanted to go ahead and make this song, the song was so important to me because I'll put it to you this way. Traditional media news outlets, they were all singing the same song, and it's kind of scary when they're doing that. Because it goes to show you that there's, a puppet master somewhere. You know what I mean? And I'm not one to be a conspiracy theorist, although I do put out funny videos about conspiracy theories or whatnot, but those are just jokes. But, this is something that I feel that it's not really so much a conspiracy. I think it's just like straight in our face. And it's like if you don't look at it and you ignore it, then you're being ignorant about it and you just don't want to know better. But I truly feel that... There's a lot of things in play, and when I made this song, there were things that I wanted to hit on. But I definitely want to talk about this. According to usafacts.org, you got over 270 million people that were actually got one dose of the vaccination. And that's about 81% of the country, because we're a country of the United States consists of what? I believe it's 330 million people. And you actually have 70% of the country that actually got fully vaccinated. That's with boosters and everything. And that's over 230 million people. Now, globally, people have gotten the dosage. I want to say one dose, it's been 5.5 billion, not million, billion people globally. And that's about 72% of the world. And 67% of the world has been fully vaccinated with boosters and everything, with a little bit over 5.4 billion people that are fully vaccinated. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to play audio right now with Andrew Cuomo. And he's just, he's very adamant about not pushing this on his citizens and taking the vaccination. And then he contradicts himself. And I'm going to let you hear that audio right now. There you go.
So 54% of New Yorkers say they wouldn't take it. So the first question is the vaccine safe? Frankly, I'm not going to trust the federal government's opinion. And I wouldn't recommend to New Yorkers based on the federal government's opinion. We now have a vaccine that will save lives, but it will only save lives if we take it. I will fight to deliver it, and we will make it available through churches, community groups, public housing, in many different ways to make sure it is accessible to the hardest hit communities of color.
All right. So now that you guys checked that out, I just want to hit on a couple of things. I truly, I feel that, this whole situation had thrown the world in a whirlwind. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. But, I wanted to make this song to just really shout my message and let people know, ignorance is not bliss. So stop being gullible about the situation. Look at your information. Look at one side, look at the other side, and come to your own conclusion on what's the truth and what you feel is to be false. So, that's one of the things that I wanted to, prove my point on this. So now, with that being said, with all those, folks being vaccinated, okay, now we could talk about, in reference to job security. I'm going to play an audio for you real quick to check out what happened with a couple of folks, I believe in Texas, that ran into a situation in reference to job security. Check it out.
The FDA turning its attention to kids. A top advisor now saying all children should be vaccinated, stressing herd immunity is critical with more contagious variants on the way. Now under FDA review, Moderna's new COVID vaccine specifically for 12 to 17-year-olds. But in Texas at Houston Methodist, doubts over all the vaccines have led to legal action.
You're willing to lose your job over this?
Yes.
Tell me why.
Because I am not going to take that vaccine.
Jennifer Bridges, one of 117 hospital workers now part of a mass action lawsuit suing Houston Methodist for its policy requiring all staff to be vaccinated or terminated.
All right, so now that you guys have seen that, okay, obviously, people are threatening, and this is in order to get more people vaccinated, obviously, right? But people were threatening jobs, for people to get fired if they weren't vaccinated. You have the military as well discharging people who refuse to take the vaccine. You can have people that are close to retirement or whatnot, and, they're like, I'm not taking the vaccine. It's like, oh, well, you got to get out. Shortening people on what kind of retirement they get. And, they put foot to behind for their country. And of course that hits near and dear to me because I'm a veteran myself. So I'm like, wow, we give up so many freedoms in order for people to live free in the United States. But in reality, are they really free? And when you sign up to be a government employee in the military, that your freedoms are being limited, but you're doing it to sacrifice for somebody else. But it's horrible when you're doing that and they're trying to limit the freedom of free people. I mean, that's defeats the purpose of why we serve, right? But anyway, I just think that was just a crazy notion. But now we're talking about in reference to the world population. And I'm not saying this were to happen, don't quote me on this. I'm just throwing this out there. You got 5.5 billion people that got at least one dosage of the shot, right? Which is probably more than enough damage to do to your body if this vaccine is proven to give cardiac issues in reference to your heart. 8.1 billion people on this world. That's our global population. 5.5 billion took it. Everybody dropped dead who had COVID, who had the COVID shot. You got 2.7 billion people left on the earth, right? I also want to segue into food shortage. There's a report in Reuters talking about that the UN is projecting by the year 2030 that 600 million people will be, I guess what they say, undernutritioned, which is basically due to the food shortage, and it's like, it's easier by the year 2030 to feed 2.7 billion people as opposed to feeding 8.1. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who took this vaccine is going to drop dead. That's not what I'm saying. But I just found it very weird that you have perfectly conditioned athletes, you have young folks that were taking this vaccine. I mean, it was absolutely nuts the way they were doing it. If it serves to be true, I guess they were saying, that they wanted to give it to the elderly at first people who had underlying health issues because they didn't want to be wiped out by COVID, right? Or are we trying to take care of the elderly and those who have underlying health issues and just kind of wipe them out and do what we need to do, so then that way we can rid of the weak and, keep moving forward as a society. But that wouldn't make sense to Big Pharma, because Big Pharma makes money off of the elderly because they count on you to break down as you get older. They count on the people who have underlying health issues who just happen to just take major, not talking about minor, I'm talking about major maintenance medicines in order to live. So, that can contradict what I was saying. But, you just never know what's, the ulterior motives of the quote-unquote elites, because I can guarantee you there are many people in position of power that did not take this vaccine and were advised not to take it because, being the fact that they're going through clinical trials, people weren't sure what was going to be the reaction to it. And then on top of that, they were going through trials, but they were still rolling it out to the public. So, like I said, I was very skeptical about the whole situation with these folks actually getting this COVID shot out. And it was funny, while it was under Trump in the United States, everybody was refusing it. Joe Biden comes in, everybody should take it. It's a whole bunch of contradictory things going on. Obviously, politics always comes into play, and I hate when you're dealing with people's lives and you have people that are in a position of power and forget that they work for the people. No, they act like they're some sort of a monarch. And it's like, oh no, I was anointed by God to be in this position. No, I'm sorry. This isn't, was it King Henry the VIII or whatnot, or the VIIth, Queen Elizabeth's father from back in, the early 15th or 14th century. We're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And obviously I got my time frames wrong, but I think you guys get the point. But anywho, I always think about, if a situation were to happen like that, you got 2.7 billion people on the earth. We haven't had a low population like that since 1950. And of course, in 1950, our major communication at that time was newspapers, magazines, and the radio. They didn't even have TV yet. But of course, when the 60s came, the TV had replaced all of those entities, and they were progressing as a society through a mass rapid communication via television. Now, we move forward into present day, and the cell phone has wiped out the TV in reference to entertainment, social media, where a lot of people are getting their news and consuming their news from. And your streaming services, where a lot of people are like, well, let's bump the news. I'm not going to watch the news. I'm going to watch this documentary because I'm going to determine what's right and what's wrong and what's true and what's false. So, it's crazy that we have gotten here in a society where you still have traditional media outlets that are still trying to give a united front in reference to the propaganda that they're actually putting out. People talk so much crap about China, talking about, oh man, all they do is put out their own propaganda, what they want to put out and what they want you to hear. But in the United States, you listen to Fox News, you listen to CNN, dude, they're doing the same exact damn thing. They're fighting against each other, but they're all giving out the same freaking message. It's just one's a conservative and one's a liberal. And in fact, conservatives and liberals aren't even living out by their traditional meanings of the words conservatism and liberalism at all. They're not even living by their own political beliefs. And that's horrible. So, with that being said, that's the reason why I made the Plandemic. I made the Plandemic. I'm not trying to be here to be political. I'm not trying to be here to tell you, yes, I want to run to be the next mayor of, or I'm thinking about running to be the next governor of Georgia. No, that's not what I'm doing. But what I am telling people is wake up. Ignorance is not bliss. Stop being gullible. Look for your own information. Stop drinking the people's Kool-Aid. If you got a mask on and you tired of wearing that thing, man, get you a breath of fresh air, dude. Even if you ain't got to be around people. Hell, if you're in Georgia, you're around the Atlanta area, go to Stone Mountain. Go on top of the mountain. don't nobody want to be near you, go ahead and smell the high heavens. Because I'm telling you, just like this right now, if we keep on feeding into what's, the media is trying to tell us, we're going to continue to be imprisoned by our own minds. I'm telling you that right now. Governments sell scares. And that's exactly what I said in my song, and it's the absolute truth. So please, make sure you do what you got to do. Live your life, because you only got one. And a coward dies 1,000 deaths, but only the real ones live and die once. Be a real one. Live and die once. Don't be a coward. Don't die 1,000 deaths. This is Rolo Runs the City. You already know what it is. I'm your host, Rolo. And like I always say, be the goat, never a sheep, and do not sleep on your dreams. Take care, Godspeed, and we'll see you on the next one.
From the same lab, protect everyone. Wear your mask.